What's going on, everyone? My name is Ben Marcus. I am so thrilled to be joined by all of you here today, streaming live as we explore Japan, getting into street photography with OM System Ambassador Ben Salb. A little bit about myself, just to intro that. I handle the OM System Ambassador team here in North America, and working with photographers like Ben is just an absolute honor. Not only do we share the same name, but he has really inspired me as well as other creators like yourself to not only get out and shoot, enjoy both the big and small world, which is his main kind of shooting. We'll talk about that a little bit, but also showing that no matter your skill level, get out and try it. We're going to look at some fun images today, and you should definitely check out Ben's work in general. His career has spanned over 10 years. And since we're going to be talking about Japan, I think it's fun for you to all know that he got started while stationed with the Navy in Japan, taking photos of his travels, being able to get off base. And that passion followed him home. Ben's main focus is on macro photography, and he takes some of the most captivating insect shots you've ever seen. You should definitely check out his social. On Instagram, it's Ben_small_world, Ben Small World. That's in the information on the description on this link, as well as just an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. Now, beyond that, you should definitely let us know in the comments where you're viewing from. I used to say calling because that's radio talk, but let us know where you're viewing from. We love to see that. And if you have any questions right out of the gate about street photography or about Ben's work in general, leave them in the comments. We're going to be addressing all those today. But without further ado, Ben, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. What an intro. You're definitely the more talented Ben here. So I can't believe you just threw that together. Very impressive. So thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I practice that in front of the mirror every day, but for every single ambassador.
Okay, good.
Now, I do want to call out as well, not only have you had such a really fun career focused on inspiring people to get out there and shoot no matter what type it is, but also you've had some really interesting accolades lately. You've been published in National Geographic multiple times. That's really awesome.
Same image. Same image, but okay. No, so extremely lucky for those.
They used it multiple times. I don't know that a lot of photographers could even say that, but also you were just published in the New York Times talking about ticks.
Yes,
so exciting. What an honor.
No, yeah, that was a crazy opportunity and just something that they found me through social media and then kind of requested some meetings. Figured out what would work, and then they had me on a train to New York City. And I was photographing ticks in a lab, and just crazy experiences, and just really fortunate to be in the position I'm in, especially because photography is still pretty much a hobby for me, and I have a career in IT.
So not only is he a talented photographer, he's also humble, guys.
My head's big enough already.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. I mean, it's bad enough that I have to say my own name all the time, but we have a lot of fun with it. So yes, Ben Squared is here today to get into this. So I do see a bunch of people letting us know where they're in from. North Carolina, Queensland, Australia. Love my Aussies. We always are thrilled to have you guys join us. Phoenix, Arizona. We've got some folks in Minneapolis. We've also had some people that grew up in Japan. Wow, very cool. Super excited to get into that. Awesome. White Mountains of New Hampshire. Great. Very cool. All righty. And I do see some questions that are actually, focused on street photography. So right off the bat, I'm going to open this up. And before we get into the image, I'd love for you to tell me just a little bit about your trip. What were you doing there?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, I was stationed in Japan about 10 years ago. And my family has always had an interest in visiting me out there, which we weren't able to do when I was out there. But my brother and my sister and her boyfriend, we kind of got together and planned this trip to go out and just kind of see some familiar things that I've experienced before, but also kind of get off the beaten path a little bit. My sister's boyfriend is really big into the Japanese car scene. So, I mean, I'd never taken a bus in Japan before, and we did that a whole bunch. So we really just kind of got out and, wanted to make sure that my siblings were able to experience Japan the way I remembered it, and just kind of see and do things and take pictures along the way.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, it's definitely a trip that I think a lot of us traveling to Japan right now seems to be kind of popular. I'm definitely on that list of folks that want to explore. I mean, great food, amazing culture, really interesting history, architecture, and photographic opportunities that just don't seem to exist outside of there. So I'm really excited to get into this. Now, as I mentioned before, you are mainly a macro photographer. So, for you to kind of stretch your legs a little bit, broaden your horizons photographically, um, if you were to say something that you just kind of learned exploring street photography more, what would that sound like? I mean, what was the big takeaway for you with this?
I think, well, how easy it was, really.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say it was like riding a bike. It was just, you kind of, with photography, you kind of have your goals, and my macro goals are much different than anything else. But there's just something you want to convey with the images you take, and I've had the OM3 for a while, but I also use it as a backup to my OM1 Mark II because it's pretty much just as powerful, in case I need to use it for macro. But
Yeah.
I also I take pictures of the family and stuff with my OM3. But so with this, it was really just getting out there and seeing what I could do with it. Seeing how things had changed from the last 10 years with the little kind of point and shoot that I had. And seeing or being able to then to utilize the different features that the OM3 has. And truthfully, like I'm an OM system ambassador. It doesn't mean I've never used Live ND. I never used a lot of these things because it doesn't really
Right.
fit my macro workflow. So
Right.
I did do research, read other OM ambassador articles and stuff. And what I found was it was really easy to just get out there and shoot and be happy with the images I was taking.
I love that. I love that. I mean, we talk about photography sometimes at a very high level, but if I were to have a banner behind me, it wouldn't be the most PC thing in the world, but it would just say, "Just shut up and shoot, get out there."
Yeah.
Instead, I've got
Hmm.
believe. So any Ted Lasso fans, enjoy.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
it's something that sometimes our biggest hindrance to getting out and enjoying photography is us. We're overthinking it, and street photography is a great way to work on your comfort zone as well. So, with all of that, now I want to actually talk about the photo. So here, compositionally, you've done some very fun things that are just like classic rules. One of which is you've put the foreground set up in a way, especially with that red lantern on the right, you're
Mhm.
framing the actual image. And there's a couple different complementary colors as well. We talk about that a lot because that's just pleasing to the eye. We've got oranges and blues playing against each other, red, white, and black, very common, and just looks really clean. And this was shot on the 17 millimeter 1.8 Mark II,
Mhm.
one of my absolute favorites, super compact. I think it's a lot of people's like number one choice for street and travel within our system because it's just so lightweight and small.
Yeah.
Um, you know, bring me into this photo. What was it like for you?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm glad you noticed all the little things, the foreground. And so what's really funny is, it's something I'm patting myself on the back for. So one of the things I really had to focus on was not capturing any faces, if they were
Yep,
going to be used. So that was a big
yep.
thing that we had talked about beforehand. So,
That is a good challenge. Yep.
you'll notice, and that's how Live ND kind of came into play. But with things like this, it's really just trying to put myself in places where the framing was already there. I just kind of had to put the camera in the right spot.
Mm,
Um, and so that's kind of how this way. I was walking down this little alleyway in Tokyo, very famous, and a lot of times I was catching people's faces and stuff, and which is fine for personal photography. But for this, it was really about kind of just slowly moving along and seeing a moment, and then just kind of trusting that the camera will take it, which is point
mm.
and shoot at that point, with the right settings and everything. Um, and I'll be honest, I was slightly worried about how the shadows and highlights would be treated because these are all straight out of camera. These are all with the recipe that I
Yes.
developed. Um, and they really ended up, working out well. So I didn't touch, anything on these. I think one or two of them I cropped, but that was about it. So, but yeah, for this, I was just going down this little alleyway slowly and seeing, what I could capture, and then as I mentioned, trusting that the camera was going to be able to capture what I saw.
Terrific. Um, Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on in this because my brain looks at this and I want to create stories, about what's going on. Who are those people walking away from you? Where are they going? Are they locals? Are they visiting? The two folks sitting at the table there ordering,
Mhm.
food, drinks. Maybe it's a long day at work. Maybe it's a big vacation. I think that's a fun part of street photography specifically is um, there's either a story that's very clear in the image, or it makes you feel something, or you look at what's going on from the human element and you kind of start to project a story or a feeling onto it. And I think you've done that really well here.
Mhm. And the 17 millimeter was on my OM3. I'm actually using it right now as a webcam. It's a great
Yeah.
all around, and it's just so small, and it
Mhm.
it fits perfectly with the OM3 body. Um, I really loved it, and there's another lens I used a lot too, but we'll talk about that, when we get to some of those images.
No, that's great. Yeah, keep people on their toes. Okay.
Mhm.
So we'll move on from that. Now, as you folks have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. We'll address them either in the moment or we'll find a break to talk about them. But we really want to get a sense of what you guys are curious about because we are both photographic experts, and Ben, of course, is world renowned at this point. So, if you're looking for some inspiration or some tips, I think that's a great place to do that and take advantage of it. Now, one thing I think it's probably good for us to talk about, this is a really broad strokes question, but we've got somebody asking, for using an OM3 for street photography at night, what settings do you recommend? I think that's
Yes.
pretty open ended.
So I recommend making sure that if you have when I do macro, I shoot fully manual. I know exactly my lighting, and it's different because I have flash. I know all my parameters. When I go out shooting like this, I actually shoot in aperture priority. And what I do is I have my ISO levels at a point where it doesn't go higher than I want it to go, where I feel like maybe you lose a little bit of detail. There's just a little bit too much noise. And then that pairs with the lowest shutter speed. So I'm going out there and I know that I don't have to worry about it being underexposed. And I know that it's not utilizing too much, raising the ISO too much to make it too sensitive to introduce too much noise.
Yeah, because
So,
of course we are shooting straight out of JPEG. So, like denoise tools, they're not going to give us as much ability to change something if you're looking to change some ISO performance after the fact. That's a
yeah.
really good call out.
One thing I'm really getting away from too is thinking that an image in this digital age needs to be this perfectly grain free, rendering. I'm
So
kind of
true.
finding, yeah, some of it is, and I'm going away a little bit from a lot of the different denoising programs I'm using because if you zoom in, you're zooming in at 800% or so, and you see this sharpened image and denoised, and sometimes it's like, well, it doesn't even look like my image anymore. Like I want to see the little bits of grain and detail that came from that, because that just seems more. I don't know. It just seems like that's what I captured, and what I'm
Yeah.
doing with this denoising program is turning it into a replica of what I created or what the camera was able to capture.
That's a really interesting way to put it. I mean, it's funny because we're sometimes so concerned about ISO noise and the detail and what have you, but then a lot of those same photographers they'll turn around and they'll shoot in film or they'll create a film recipe where they've added grain on purpose, and it's like that's kind of the same thing, my guy. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
funny because we do look at that. Sometimes it's part of the aesthetics that we're trying to translate, but when you're being intentional, I think it's great that you have um the ability to so quickly set things like an ISO parameter, or just quickly swap into the different manual modes and create those different custom pieces. Okay,
And
so
two quick
yeah,
other things to add to
yeah,
that too is that you can lower the shutter speed to create the
yes.
image. The image stabilization is so good,
Oh my
and
gosh, that's one of my
also
favorite things.
this sensor does really well with handling higher ISOs. So really, I was concerned going to Japan. I was like, well, I don't know if any of the street stuff is really going to work the way I want it to. And I
Mm.
never even thought about it after getting the images. It was like, oh yeah, I forgot that was a concern I had.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I think if people photographically are newer to a micro four thirds system, specifically OM system, of course, coming from maybe a different sensor or an older camera, in-body stabilization is something that we pioneered and we're industry leading in that. But when you have a smaller sensor, you have more effective stabilization as well. So learning to trust that you can take a photo for longer and handhold those exposures for much more than you would normally ever dare do. It's great for a wider angle lens like this. It's also great for people that are using super telephotos. I mean, results may vary. I mean, you as a person is also going to change how effective that stabilization is. I'm finding personally one of our longest lenses, that 150 to 400, even at 1,000 millimeters equivalent with that teleconverter put on, I'm hand holding 1 second shots consistently. That's ridiculous.
It
So,
is ridiculous.
understanding the tool and then trusting it, it allows me to say yes to compositions and photos that normally I would shy away from. Like I wouldn't even leave the house. But
Mhm.
now we can take advantage of that.
I have an old
Now,
DSLR here that
yeah.
I was trying to fire up for my daughter to play around with.
Oh,
And
nice.
I tried to take some pictures in my dimly lit office, and nothing was coming out. And I was just like, "What? I don't understand. Like, I can do this with my OM3. I can do this with my." And it just the technology has changed so much, and Micro Four Thirds is really. It's not the system a lot of people think it is. It's much more robust. Than they assume.
Absolutely. Know your tool, trust your gear. Now, I do see a bunch of comments. So instead of bringing up a question, then we're going to move on. But I do want to call out if you were wondering what the settings are, what camera Ben used specifically for this event, he shot everything on OM3. So I'll just say that.
Mm.
But all of the lens information and the settings are all the way at the bottom of each image. So you can take a look at that if you're curious. And that 17 millimeter is a 1.8 aperture. So at its widest, 1.8, lots of light being let in. But we were going to move on now and take a look at our next image. Oh, to be young. That's very sweet. It's not the years, it's the mileage. Trust me, my back hurts. But get it close, hold your breath, tighten up, and just practice a little bit. But I was even shocked myself. I thought I was going to be able to do a quarter of a second, then it was a half of a second. But the wider the lens is, the easier it is to do that. So trust it, experiment while you're home, and then you'll feel more confident in the field. All right. So here we're using some very different techniques. You mentioned the live ND. That's a computational feature that OM system cameras have, and you've used that to great effect with this particular shot. And there's a couple that are going to feature this. So that allows you to essentially put a digital filter that stops light from coming in. Normally, that's a screw-on filter. Here it's built into the camera, and that allows you to show motion blur and movement that can be used to show busyness or speed, or in some cases, it could remove people so that you get a clean landscape shot. There's a lot of really cool uses for it. But here you get a sense of busyness. And I want to direct people to the top. So these, I wish I had a way to show you my mouse, folks, but top left, you've got those 3 or 4 vertical long string lights. And those are all kind of pointing towards a vanishing point, which is a really great compositional tool because it gives you a sense of direction. It gives you a place for your eye to go. So leading lines, vanishing point, that's just a really great technique that you've used here to give more interest to the photo. But now I want to hear from you, Ben.
You are you're giving me more credit than I deserve. I'm pretty. I didn't. That's one of those
Sometimes
things,
it's intentional, sometimes it's instinct. I mean, you've been doing this a long time. So you don't even
Um,
realize it until you look back, right?
yeah, what I want to call out on this photo was that before coming to Japan, before using LiveND, I thought things like this required a tripod, kind of being a presence in an area that people see and ignore. Some people might have questions. With this, I was walking with my siblings. I turned around, saw how busy it was. I took the OM3 out of my little sling, pointed it, turned on LiveND, shot, and then put it away and kept walking. Um, and then, so it was like, but it captured what I felt. Japan Tokyo especially is such a busy, um, there's just so much going on above ground, underground,
Right.
and you're just kind of in this river of people, depending on where you are. And so I was like, well, maybe the LiveND can kind of help me capture that in this super busy, subway. And it did. And I love that, there's someone that walked right in front of me and they kind of disappeared.
Yeah, I can
Kind of
almost
seeing,
just see their
did
face,
they
almost.
have a cat sweater on? I kind of see like a cat face to the but
Yeah, I do see that,
maybe a
yeah.
backpack or something. But no,
Definitely adds interest.
I really I was happy with this just because of the blurred out motion of the people, because it was exactly how I felt in that moment, and it was such a short moment, and I was able to capture it, almost instantaneously. Just kind of continue on. It's non-obtrusive, photography. Um,
Yep.
but that's what I remember with the shot.
Very cool. Yeah, and non-obtrusive. That also that brings up something. So part of what's great about the OM3 is the fact that it has a viewfinder that's not on the top, but off to the side. We call that a rangefinder design. It used to have some different aspects back in film days, but now instead of it being right in the middle of your face, it's off to the side. It allows you to stay more situationally aware if you shoot with both eyes open, which I highly recommend that you do. You never know what's around, but also you've got that tilt screen so that you can shoot low, you can shoot high, and you can have some subtlety so you don't, uh, impact the moment, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I think there's some fun stuff going on here technique wise, but just that peace of mind that you can get the shot that you're envisioning and just keep moving, staying creative on the fly. That's a big part of you know OM3's advantages, but also just shooting street photography.
Yeah. Just like kind of capturing something as you've seen it developing, being able to
Yeah.
react, to the world around you and capitalize on it.
Yeah, and yes, that did use LiveND, just to answer that question again, which is a built-in feature on the OM system cameras. So now for something black and white, and I think this is
Yeah.
one of those shots that we were going to talk about earlier, where you kind of want to create stories subconsciously. It's a sign, it's got texture, it's dead center, which is a different compositional technique instead of putting it off to the side. And I like that you've used black and white here to maybe remove some of the color distraction that might be taking away from this image. Is this a, hold kids' hands while crossing the street, or is this, hold adults' hand while crossing the street? What
Right.
is what
Yeah.
are we looking at here?
Who's this for?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
what's interesting about this picture too is that I had a hard time um, using this as an example because the colors on the OM3 are so good that the color picture looks great too.
Mm,
But it had the rust, the like the kind of the little bit of graffiti, the water stains, and then kind of more of a timeless look on the people there. So it was like I was seeing an aged scene, and I felt like the black and white would really help portray how I felt about that. And there's a lot of
mm,
texture in here and things.
yeah,
And when I created the recipe to use for the black and white, I'm not a super fancy, like I didn't add any grain or any kind of fading, and the contrast was the same. I just wanted to be able to take black and white images that were not complicated. And I was like, boom, like, okay, this is what I'm looking at. This is kind of, I want it to feel a certain way, and I'm not going to get too punchy with it, and that's it. And so I
yeah,
created it, and then Yeah, it was great. And this came out exactly, what I was looking for, a little bit of depth with the things around the sign, and then, some lines and that. I really like how it came out. And this was another thing. We were walking around a park, I think, closer to a temple, and I was just like, oh, that's a neat sign. And I took a picture, put it back away, put
Absolutely.
my camera away, and kept walking.
Yeah, no, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. I mean, having a black and white look that's not complicated, I think also adds to the timeless aspect of that. And clearly, some folks love it. Shout out to Wildlife with Kari, one of our
Hey, Kari.
actually our second newest OM System ambassador for North America. You guys should definitely check her out. So, a little bit of a
Absolutely.
plug. We just did a show with her last week. You can check that out on wildlife photography, how to make your good shots better. We had a lot of fun with that. So, go check her out. But love that we've got such a strong community
Yeah.
here in OM System.
Yeah. Same here.
They all talk to each other. They all support each other. It's a fun thing. So, love you, Kari. We've got some specific questions about this. Where was this? Was this in Tokyo or was this somewhere else?
No, this was up in Nara, I believe, if I remember correctly. So we took the bullet train a few hours and go to explore another city. Nara is the area that has the deer that bow.
Mm,
So yeah, I believe that's where this is from.
that's super
So
unique.
it's more of a a little bit of a rural, not so much the in the middle of the city type vibe to it. Walking along some slower roads and taking images around there was a nice change of pace.
And someone's asking, was this through a window or the raindrops on the lens? I'm not seeing what they're seeing. I think this is just some weathered texture that's on the sign. Uh, I mean,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah, I mean, it is a weather sealed camera, so we might have had some raindrops. But yeah, I mean, you can literally run a hose over that camera lens, IPX53 rating.
Hmm.
So, if it's a little wet out, no worries, but it doesn't look wet to me.
Yeah, I wonder what
Maybe
that's.
wipe your
That's
screen, my
interesting.
friend.
Yeah, I wonder if there's
Um,
some artifacts or something, because I didn't use Live ND or anything. So
yeah.
anything that's shown in the images, I'm looking up towards the top. I'm not sure the power lines or
Yeah, it
anything, but
might be something there. Interesting. Now we do have, I just want to answer this as well. Yes, this is YouTube. So this will be recorded. You can come back and watch this anytime. You can ask questions anytime. This is a live show. So the benefit is you can ask questions here. So if you guys are watching, I'm super happy to have you. If you're not asking questions, please ask questions. You've got the advantage to pick our brains and especially Ben's. That Ben, not this Ben. There's a lot of Bens here.
that Ben's too good at. You're too good at this, Ben. I feel like you need to
I
be like a
I appreciate
radio
that.
host or something.
I appreciate that. Well, I mean, back in high school, I did do like the TV announcing and stuff, but it's
No
fun.
surprise there. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I don't have my voice as deep as somebody like Mike Amico. Mike is one of our tech reps. He does amazing YouTube and Zoom classes with us. So if you guys want to check out more of what we're doing live, make sure that you're subscribing to us on YouTube, but also make sure that you're signing up for our emails because you're going to be made aware of that. And you can always check out OM System events. That page will show all of what we're up to, both on Zoom, YouTube, and physical events in your area. So just to call that out. Now, I do have an interesting question that I want to talk about here. Maybe they'll respond back with some more of what they're talking about.
Yeah,
But
you
feature the
can.
map look.
So you can. So it's not a specific recipe setting like for that look. What you can
Mhm.
do is lower the contrast,
Yes.
and that will help you achieve that matte look.
Yeah, that
Um,
softness. Yeah, when we reduce contrast, you're essentially telling the camera, hey, don't have there be such a visual difference between the blackest blacks and the whitest whites. And that's kind of how you're giving that matte
and
look.
then there's also the highlights and the shadow section. I believe if you raise, because I played around with it because I'm a sucker for a good matte looking black and white,
Mhm.
and I had achieved that, but it was one of those things like, well, it wasn't this simplistic. I'm just looking for this like something I can use, something I can share. But no, I was able to achieve that by playing with the settings, with the highlights and the shadows and the
Very
recipe
cool.
settings.
And we've got a little bit of a local piece of knowledge for you guys. So that was a very common hat uniform in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, there's a lot of aspects of this that are timeless. I mean, the street sign is old, but the concept behind it is still relevant today. We can see that at the bottom, what's being said there has definitely been added to that older sign, and then of course that lack of contrast gives us a really nice timeless look. I think that's going to be an aspect to your photos because the editing that you essentially imparted with those creative profiles that you made, they're not too punchy. I mean, they are timeless. I think that was a really cool thing that you did.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, and then we're going to move on from this photo. So, do you create recipes for specific photos as you're standing in front of it? I think not. I think you are, just creating general recipes that you want to walk around town with.
Yeah. So what I did for this is I kind of, I had this, I had Japan envisioned, lots of reds, oranges, and then, I wanted to take down. So these were things in my head, but then I went and I actually looked at other photographers' images of Japan and things that work for them. So what I did is I created images that they weren't exactly subtle, but they weren't extreme. And then so I made them so they could work in a bunch of different settings. Um, but I will admit though, there were certain photos because I know I took yellows down a little bit. There were photos where yellow was would have been great if that was brought up a little bit.
All right.
Nice thing is with the OM3 is that, okay, if my specific recipe doesn't work, it's still taking a raw photo that I can go back and I can make those edits if I want, so you're not losing out on that opportunity.
No,
Um,
absolutely not.
but a lot of photographers, there's a great repository of recipes that photographers have made that have different looks and things like that that you can download and put on your OM3. So that's such a great resource to have because it's like, okay, you have these experts or people that have figured it out after playing with it. And if you like those images, you can load it and have that available and save it onto your camera.
Absolutely. Actually, shouting out our brand newest ambassador adapter. Listen to me. Shouting out our newest North American ambassador, Jared Z. That's Jerred. He has kind of adopted the OM3 as his everyday camera, and street photography, fine art photography is a big part of what he does. You can check him out on Instagram as well as his website. Jared Zigelis is the full name, but he does have a lot of his recipes for you to check out. But there are tons of different Facebook groups, Reddits, as well as on OM Systems website where you can take a look at all sorts of different recipes. So that can be a really fun way to try it. But I invite all of you, try it yourself. Play around with it. This worked for Ben, but you might have a trip coming up or an aesthetic that you're after. Play with it. If you have the camera, definitely try that. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm
So
thinking,
moving on to
like a
the next photo.
trip to Greece or, like I already
Yeah.
have these kind of thoughts in my head of what I would want those colors to look like. And
Yeah. And this is a
it's fun.
perfect segue because we've got two side by side, fairly similar, single person walking, leading lines on the street, a lot of interest both to the sides and above them to frame that. That's going to be, something that I think is just always an interesting shot, no matter the city. I was just in Denver and, it worked there. One of the things that I'll call out, Ben, I don't know if you did it this way intentionally, if this was just your instinct. A lot of street photography technique, one of the most common tips that I'll see and that I'll give to people is find your composition, find that frame, find that interesting, landscape, that foreground, and then just wait. Wait for the right person, wait for the right, cat to cross the street. Find the frames and then just be patient. The snapshot aspect, that's absolutely, something that you can do. But if you've got the time, find the frame and just wait. I'll give that as a tip. But enough from me in the teaching. I want to hear from you on these shots. What was going on here? Where are we?
Yeah, so that these are both in the Shibuya area of Tokyo. And no, that's a great call out because for both of these scenes, I actually have dozen or so images in the same exact place, kind of waiting for something to develop. And for me, right, the variable is or the people that are moving around. So I have some shots, the black and white. I have some shots where the guy's actually I essentially have him walking away from me. And when he was closer to me, he was kind of too big, too obstructive, and so I just kind of waited it out and kept snapping along the way and waited for there to be some kind of empty space and for things to develop. And also I had to wait for people coming towards me to walk past me so I didn't capture their face.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm going to keep calling out how great I did at not getting faces in any of these photos.
These photos, just for a little bit of context, folks. So Ben reached out to us a few months ago. He's like, hey, I'm going on this really awesome trip. I am an ambassador. Could I please borrow some stuff? I'm like, sure. We'll challenge you though. I know you're a macro shooter, but like you're shooting for fun. Take a couple photos that we can talk about for maybe some social content or an upcoming video. And I think everybody's benefiting from that. But I appreciate that you rose to the challenge so well because, of course, being a company, we have to respect people's privacy. Absolutely. So, for you to do that, I think also allows people to kind of subconsciously write their own story. That's a theme that I'm coming back to.
Great comment.
Yes.
About people posing. So actually right where I took the black and white photo, a group of people who were still partying, I think, because this was early in the morning. I had jet lag. So that's why it's not as crazy. I had a group of gentlemen come up and ask if I wanted to take their picture. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So they posed for me in pretty much this exact same spot. I took a couple black and white. I took a couple color. Another random guy came, joined in. He was having a great time. And what I was able to do, because these were, straight out of camera, I transferred them to my phone and then airdropped them in like a minute and a half. And they were just like, whoa. And they found me on Instagram. And they're like, thanks so much. And it's one of those things like I would have shared, and I can share those personally.
Drop them on your story on your Instagram.
Yeah,
you guys
I should
definitely go follow him
because they turned out they were great. And my brother was with me and he like recorded a bunch of it. But great, yeah. But like that comment said, like when you have that camera out, it's a different. It's a different vibe. People are looking at what you're shooting with, and especially with the grip I have on it. And I think so. I have there we go.
Yeah,
I've got my little small rig grip on there that I got. But it's just a beautiful little camera.
Yeah, it's a really popular accessory. And I don't think it bulks out the camera too much either. And I like that it's wood. It just gives a nice accent. So very cool. Same person had a good question. I will take this one. So, is there a way to download a recipe to a camera or do you just manually input them? So all you got to do, you do manually input it. It takes 2 minutes, 90 seconds, maybe 3 minutes for your first one. But it's very easy to do. It's only a couple steps. You're using the main wheels on the camera, and there are plenty of videos that you can check out on how to do that if you're really uncertain. Granted, we're always making reports back to headquarters to say, hey, maybe this is a feature that we can figure out how to download directly to an update for the camera. So we're always innovating. Stay tuned. But for right now, you're going to manually input and save those to a custom setting or just directly into your recipes on the camera. So,
Ben, one thing I wanted to mention about this too. This is I believe the first image is with the 12 to 45 f4. I have had that lens for a long time. It's great for wide angle close-ups.
I've got it right
slightly,
here.
Yeah, slightly. It's actually, I've got mine hooked up here too. It's good for, slightly smaller subjects, or I should say bigger than macro, but it gives a great wide angle perspective really close. But I brought it with me along with a bunch of the primes you guys loaned me, just in case, looking for something a little extra wide. Yeah. Eventually I had this lens on more than the 17 millimeter. So it was so sharp And it gives you that little extra, it's 12 millimeter. It gives you a little more scene to work with, and being able to kind of, zoom in a little bit, frame things out or back out. When you have like a tighter alleyways and things like that, like it was perfect. It was it was really surprising because had brought that as like a, just in case, or, this isn't working, and ended up really having a great experience with it on the OM3.
Now, I will say, selfish plug, that camera and lens, so OM3 with the 12-45 f4 Pro, that is a bundle kit that we offer. It's a really great pro optics lens, full weather sealing, super compact, as I just showed. But right now, there's a really good sale, at least for you guys in the States. I don't know what's going on abroad, but that is being bundled at a really nice discount through August, which is when this is being filmed. So you guys should definitely check that out on the website. If you guys are looking for a link anywhere, the links that are in our description are global. They'll take you to the correct country or region for you. But if you're curious about that particular combo, I do highly recommend it. You should definitely check it out. There's some really nice sales. But yeah, that 12-45, I mean, it's a 24-45, full frame equivalent. That's the bread and butter of all sorts of different types of photography. It's a good mid-range. You can get a solid landscape, maybe a little bit of architecture, but you can zoom in and get a really nice, up close portrait or something like that. And yes, I do see some people asking for the link. If I have a moment on the next image, I will grab that link and drop it into the description. But yeah, we'll definitely take care of you guys for that, so you can check it out for yourself. Okay. We've got one good question. And I know this is like an hour show, but we've got some good questions. So that's always a good problem for me to have. So we'll go a little over if we have to, but I can answer this as well. So what are the advantages of the 12-45 over the 12-40 f2.8 if someone already has the 12-40? So 12-40 f2.8, the lower the number, the more light you're letting in. The f4 is going to be slightly less low light performance, only a stop, but the size difference is the massive advantage for this, because your 12-40, I don't have it right in front of me, but it's about this big versus this big. So size, weight, traveling in your bag. If you're in good light, or even not terrible light all the time, I highly recommend this as one to explore. I've used both. I tend to grab this because it just makes sense for the size. It packs away nicer. It's a more enjoyable experience. So I hope that answers that question.
From if you're looking for more lens with a little more utility, so the magnification on the 12-40, I believe, is the strongest at the longer, at the 40 millimeters, where with the 12-45, it's at the 12 millimeters. So if you're looking for wide angle close-ups in addition to your street photography, I would recommend the 12-45. But
that's a really good call out.
I just want to mention too, though, I was not told to plug anything on this. I only use things that work.
Yes.
So if I'm talking about it, it's because I truly, truly enjoyed my experience with it.
Yes. And that authenticity is key. I mean, I'll give you guys a little bit of a behind the scenes. So when I'm working with our ambassadors, they're not salespeople. Their whole benefit to you guys is they are real people that authentically use and love our gear. They're going to recommend the right tool for the job within their lineup. And if it's not something that they use, they'll explain that. They'll be honest about that. So if you're looking for advice, DM Ben, DM any of the other ambassadors, DM Kari, DM Jared. They'll give you that firsthand experience, because, they love the gear. That's why they're ambassadors. They're not employees. So, we're big on that authenticity behind the scenes. So just a specific call out. But yes, Ben, you do not get any prompting with any of that.
I know, I've tried. No, I'm just kidding. And I will say, I do want to mention too that, OM System, they did not have this idea. I had this idea. I was going to Japan. And I was like, hey guys, I really want to try doing this. And they had all the trust in me to come back with things that, that would represent the company in a positive way. So, yeah, like Ben was saying, the last thing I want to be is a salesman
Yep.
with any of this stuff. So it's just a great relationship, and I'm just super lucky to represent this company and be an ambassador.
We're super honored to have you, man. Seriously. Okay, so let's move on to the next photo because I do want to be sensitive to time a little bit. And I do see some other questions, so we'll hold off on those. So here, another great use of the live ND, and you've got some really strong, uh, complementary colors. If you guys aren't sure what a complementary color is, go look at your sports teams: baseball, American football, soccer, actual football. Shout out that. I don't work for them. But if you're unsure of what a complementary color is, look at a sports jersey. Those are often complementary colors. So green and orange, red and black. And again, gray and yellow here. So you've got a lot going on that's visually interesting. But one thing I want to call attention to, we've talked about the in-body stabilization for street photography to show motion. You handheld this at 1 second.
Yeah.
Wow. Great example here.
And it was that I think this is one of the earlier experiments I had, and I was blown away. I was like, oh, this is really cool because I'm just standing here. I see these people turned away. They're standing still, because they're on their phones and stuff. And oh, here's a train coming. Let me see what happens. And then boom, I was like, oh wow, this is one of the coolest photos I think I've ever taken. And I know it's not, there's not anything super visually striking, but just having that train, and even the reflections that you still see off the train, I was just really impressed with how easy that was to do it. And then I turned around and I tried to do it with a bunch of other people, but I found that if they had long hair, that also blew with the train, and it created too much of a ghost-like effect. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to use those ones. But here's an example. Here's an example though, where, I toned down the yellows, and the greens. And so you can, this is a good example of where, I probably, all the colors being more vibrant could have worked here. But this was the recipe I created and I used. And if I ever want to go back then and kind of, be like, you know what, let's kind of adjust this a little bit, because those yellows, they're muted and that green's muted. And I feel like it would work well if they're all kind of brought up. I have the raw still, so I can go back and do that. This just makes it easy if it's if I want it to be a one and done, and I don't mind it, so, but I just wanted to call, like, this is what, if you're using a one recipe, this is kind of how some things may end up, but you still have that opportunity to work with the raws if you want.
That's the beauty of a raw, and it's nice that you called that out because yes, we're talking about straight out of camera. It's nice that you can shoot both. So if you change your mind, if you have a different inspiration, or if you want to tweak something in the photo, you've got way more information to play with. So it's nice that you're not locked into being creative at the moment and still having that safety net for a different inspiration later. Okay, so moving on from this. All right, so back to, wow, I almost want to whisper with this. There's no one around. That's cool.
Jet lag in its prime.
So this is a perfect example. Yeah, I feel jet lag looking at this photo. It's just kind of empty, but there's busyness at the same time, right?
Yeah, and this was in the Nara area where we stayed.
Okay.
And yeah, just couldn't. It was tough waking up at 4 a.m. So I was like, let me take my camera out, and I was able to experience, something that I had not seen before in Japan. Is just like the city kind of waking up, or right before waking up. The sun was coming up, but the people weren't really trickling out yet. So I just kind of looked for little alleyways and things where I could kind of, capture that. These normally busy streets and things like that are completely,
good call out.
Desolate.
So there's another perfect example here of both leading lines and the vanishing point. So if we look at the bottom, we're going to see that walking path converging to the horizon, creating a V. Your eye naturally wants to follow that. But then we've got a mirror image because of how this street is laid out. You've got the same vanishing image right at the top going off into the horizon, that vanishing point. Which is just a classic photographic technique. It's also used in a lot of cinema as well. So when people talk about like a cinematic look, that's not only, the vibes or the colors of the photo, it's also how we compose the shot.
Mhm.
So just calling that out. We'll
Yeah,
move
for a
on
lot
from
of
there.
these, I normally have the grid displayed on
Yes.
my camera for macro, but also for other types of photography because it just helps me make sure, if I'm trying to get something in the center, if I'm trying to capture those leading lines and see where they go, I know, it's going to the right place.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, for those of you that were asking before, I did manage to drop that link. So for those of you in the States, it might be a little different for those of you abroad. Hopefully you get a deal too. We always like that. But that's normally $22.99 USD. Right now it's $300 off. So it's $19.99 for that camera and lens, that 12 to 45. So just calling that out. Okay, but moving on. Not a sales pitch, but since you guys asked. Another one, complementary colors, green and yellow. I like what your custom recipe did because it's kind of softened and given kind of a pastel vibe to those greens and
Mhm.
yellows.
Yeah, and
Um,
that red, I was concerned at first. I was like, well, the red is really standing out, but it gives you kind of two different, perspectives of two. There's a train on one side and there's no train on the other side. So yeah, I
yeah,
ended up not minding it, but the focus was really on, these ghosts, like ghostly people kind of disappearing and, their journey is done. Their journey is complete and to the afterlife. No, to upstairs, they walk. But, uh, I think this was right next to where I took that other picture. I was just having a blast, just kind of pointing and using Live ND and turning people into ghosts or turning trains into ghosts.
yeah, that river of people, and now it's kind of ethereal, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And you've created more timelessness, unless somebody really knows their fashion or really knows something about that train station that could have been taken, potentially 20 years ago. That's going to give it relevancy as it moves forward, because I think that's a fun part about the motion blur. Um, a hustling, bustling underground train network. That's a timeless photo, regardless of the decade. But here you've managed to achieve that here.
And just to speak more to my, editing style and why I wasn't really strong on these crazy, recipe edits. And I have a lot of experience of using different filters and things with my editing and then loving it in the moment. And then a
Mm.
few months down the line, being like, what, was I just trying to be trendy? Like, what was I doing there? So that's why I felt like, more subtle things, here and there. Because, I'm looking at this photo again. It's like, oh yeah, like there's nothing really. It's like the what you're looking at in this image is not the editing. You're looking at what was captured.
Yeah, it's the vibe, it's the feel, it's the moment. And there's that 12 to 45 again, just absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're back to a color versus black and white here. I love that I see some both Western and probably some local businesses as well. Kind of gives
Yeah.
a sense of the culture of Japan in general. You've got such a blend of international, experiences coming together. Tell me about these photos.
Yeah, so this was another one of those early morning, out in Shibuya, couldn't sleep. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all these people, except for the workers, most of these people are leaving to go home. They had just left the bar or club or wherever they were at. So these streets are usually packed. You don't see vehicles in them. They're usually just packed with people. So so the focus, was really on the signage, and just kind of how it seems never ending, with the building that's all the way in the background. But then you do have some people in there to kind of add some extra element to it. I wouldn't have minded if there was no one in there, but I do feel like having a few people in there, like, kind of brings you down to earth. Like, yes, this is a place that exists. There are people here.
Yeah.
And but yeah, this was just playing around with the recipes and just
Yeah.
walking from street to street and seeing what I could capture.
I'm curious. I would love to know from folks, what do they prefer more with these two images, or just in general for street photography, black and white or color? I'd love that feedback just to hear from you guys. One thing I like about the black and white here is this that same like lower contrast recipe that you had with the
Mhm.
signed photo earlier?
Yep, I just used the same one the whole trip.
Very cool. And again, I'll just call out for anybody that's just joining or joined a little bit later. This is going to be recorded. You can watch this at any time. So rewatch it, take some notes, ask some questions in the comments. So don't feel like you've missed out on anything. All right. So we've got color at night and black and white for two so far. One thing I want to call out for the black and white that I find really enjoyable is that bird right at the top. That
Yeah,
little
I
bit of
like that
motion
bird.
blur.
Mhm.
I don't know why. It just it,
It's
it grabs my eye, and I like that there's a little bit of nature in this urban jungle.
it's a paid actor.
Yes, yes, the bird was paid. All right. Oh, and someone said specifically for Japan color. Very cool. All right. All right.
And
So moving
I hope
on.
people are, and I know they are realizing this, a lot of these scenes and a lot of these images, they're not, it's not Ben, the photographer, is making this happen because
Mhm.
they're kind of simple. I mean, I know this. I'll take it at face value.
Sure.
The macro photography I do can be incredibly complex, and it can
Yeah.
take hours in post to make it work. A lot of these, I'm just picking I'm taking the camera out of a sling and taking a click or two or a dozen, having fun with it, and then it's just this incredible. It's just a completely different side of photography, and there's just so much joy in the process and lack of process to make great images.
Absolutely. I think that's a good thing because, yeah, if we were to look at your work, I wish I had actually included one of your, iconic insect shots. Maybe not one of your spiders, but that's just me because I'm a weenie. I love your
No, ju-
photos, but you
no
you love
judgment.
to troll me with your high res shots. It's just so many eyes, so many babies on top of their backs. You're taking some really complex steps to make those photos so captivating, using focus stacking. Here, it's kind of like you went back to basics.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's cool about street photography is no matter what your genre is, we can all just grab a camera and walk around our town or, do it for vacation, and it forces us to think about composition. It forces us to make a split decision in the moment and then keep going because the family is waiting for us or you got a dinner reservation in a town you've never been.
Mhm.
You can look back at your photos and it's like, oh, that wasn't perfect. Or, oh, I really like that. What do I like about that photo? It causes us to be retrospective. And then it makes us stronger photographers when we go back to our, say chosen genre, if that's who we are. Or if you're new to it, it's easy to get started. All
Mhm.
cities are cool. Maybe your hometown, you're just kind of tired of it. It's because you look at it every single day. Challenge yourself. Maybe you look for a specific color or say, I'm only going to go out and look for that type of composition, or I'm going to sit it on that bench because I know there is a cool crosswalk there. And I'm just going to wait for the right moments and shoot. You'll definitely come away from it better.
Yeah, absolutely. Great words, man.
Thanks. So, I like a lot in this photo. I think the bicycle is really unique. What am I looking at here? What kind of store or restaurant is
Yeah.
this?
Oh, I have no idea.
If anybody reads Japanese, please and thank you.
But this was just like we were in transit. I think this is when we were walking to a like a car shop or something, and I had just stopped, backed up a little bit. And this is one of those things I was glad to have the 12 to 45 because the 17 would I wouldn't have been able. I would have had to go on the road, I think, to get the similar composition. But yeah, no, I liked the bike and I liked being able to capture, just the sign and with all the signage, but the doors closed. I don't remember what time of day this was. Um, to a lot of people, there's nothing really special about this, but to me, for some reason, and I don't know if it's the how squared I am to the building, or seeing the handicap accessible or the blind accessible, the yellow tiling there, and how that's straight across. Like I like this. I like this image. And who
Yeah.
knows if this restaurant or business has ever been photographed, like this, beyond its opening, So there's some fun things to think about.
Absolutely. And I really enjoy what that clean recipe that you created for this trip does. I mean, you're popping that red, but it still has a really nice matte, low contrast vibe. It's soft. It feels good. You know, those yellows stand out to me, and that little bit of blue. I think that's maybe a mailbox. It just works. Oh,
Yeah.
we've got an expert. Maybe hopefully this is correct,
Ah,
but maybe it's a Wagyu beef restaurant.
we'll take your word for it. Man, why
Delicious.
wasn't it? I would have stopped in if it was open.
Nuts.
I also like the tiling on this. The facade, the tiling there. It reminds me of and I don't know what it is. I don't want to say video, retro video game or
Kind of
so
an 8-bit vibe.
yeah, it's kind of capturing, the different architecture and stuff because I don't feel like I would see that in the States.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of different patterns here. There's something to be said for this. Oh, we got somebody that just woke up. Good morning from Grenfell, Australia. So thanks for joining. You can watch this at any time and come back after this goes live. It'll be something that you can watch back. And someone also says that they see a little bowl of soba noodles. I do love some soba.
Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah.
When you're going out, travel and try good food as well.
Mhm.
It smells good. Eat it, right? Okay, so last shot, a lot of pop of color here.
Mhm.
Kind of a common concept, a vending machine, right? But everybody talks
Yeah.
about the famous vending machines in Japan because they offer so many different things. What drew you to this photo?
So for me, this was kind of I know these vending machines. I lived around these vending machines for a few years. I know that my audience doesn't completely understand these, apart from those that live in Japan or areas that have these. So I really like, the amount of color in the different. It's very unique to someone living in the States. You're not really sure what you're looking at, but it's kind of paired with this busy sticker graffiti. And Japan is except like one of the cleanest, safest, places I've ever been and lived,
Hear it all the time,
for a
yeah.
little bit. So this is kind of and on that sign too, like this wasn't a common occurrence. More in the urban areas, and I'm kind of feeling that a lot of it is from tourists as opposed to those that live there.
Mm.
Because there's this culture of respect and your things. But I love how the orange popped on this, and but also just like kind of frame because we were under a bridge, we're under a road, a very busy road here, and there's
Right.
another one of those. We're just waiting for the crosswalk or something. I turned around, I was like, oh yeah, like there's a lot going on here. So I snapped a pic, and it ended up being one of the ones I decided to choose for displaying my time here, just because there's a lot going on. There's a lot it
Absolutely.
has to offer.
No, there's a chaos to the colors and everything that's going on that actually does pull you in. So that's a good call out. I mean, when you guys are looking at street photography or travel photography, if it looks busy, if it feels busy, sometimes that can be what's interesting about the photo. Art is supposed to make us feel something, right? So maybe you want to impart a little bit of that chaos and a little bit of those contradictions, like Ben said, where Japan is famously a very clean, no litter kind of place, not a lot of graffiti. This has that. That's a bit of a contradiction. That's a great thing to look for in street photography. Is do I show elements that contradict each other? You'll see what it looks like in the field, but that can be something to really look for as a fun challenge.
And you can't really take it in right away, but off to the left, you see the more the business and you can see it's like, oh, here's this very
Yes.
clean, tidy, and probably if that orange cone wasn't there, I probably would have positioned myself to capture a little more of that. But I did want that orange cone to make it in there just for some extra pop. But
Very cool.
yeah, and I think all of these, like, I didn't even crop any of these when I sent them.
No,
So,
yeah, you were
so I
very
just,
honest about straight out of camera.
yeah, it was just like, boom, here you go. Yeah, here you go, guys.
Shoot it right
That's
the
what
first
that,
time, think it
yeah,
out.
the grid lines really help with that too. Cause
Yes.
without those, it's like I'm shooting with one shoe on. I don't know what my problem is.
Yeah, one of my favorite features on all of the OM cameras is the ability to show a digital level. I learned a couple of years ago, I shoot crooked. I'm typically tilted off to the left a little bit, and that really helps me, not lose some of the image to cropping, especially if I want to be creative on the fly and shoot straight out of camera. Um, Now, I know so this is actually our last photo for this, so I really appreciate everybody that's asked questions. I wanna give you guys some opportunity to ask some more, but I do have something that I wanna call out, and this is just a nice teachable moment. So back at slide 3, we talked about the low contrast, timeless feel of this image. So, for those of you that might not be aware, many of you have probably heard the name Ansel Adams, one of the absolute fathers of photography. One of the things that he was known for was coining, some people say inventing, but he popularized the term the zone system. What that typically means, and I'm going somewhere with this, so just stay with me. What that typically means is within an image, there should be a wide variety of shades of the blackest, darkest black to the whitest, purest white. And a good photo, as far as Ansel was concerned, he was a landscape shooter, taking some of the most famous photos of North America. Every photo should show the entire zone system, those blackest blacks to the whitest white. And that's often looked at as a rule, so to speak. It's a great place to start when you're learning how to look at light, shooting black and white. But you've taken this kind of, and probably unintentionally, I don't think you meant it, but by reducing the contrast, by telling the camera, hey, don't show such a difference between the blackest black and the whitest white, you've softened that. You've kind of ignored that, again, rule. It's a guideline, right?
Mhm.
Just like we want to know our tool, it's great for us to learn about the, best practices or rules in photography. There's a bunch, right? Wildlife photographers try to get the face, maybe not the back of the animal. There's a lot of different ways that creatively you can break the rules and create something vastly more interesting, and it forces you to experiment. The pure basis of fun, right, is when you stop worrying about what should and shouldn't be and you ask yourself, what if? So here, even though Ben didn't do it intentionally, by lowering the contrast, the result is we've created an image that is timeless. We don't know when it was taken, right? If we look at a photo where we've got really strong contrast, it feels modern, it feels punchy, and it might date itself in a couple of years. And I really appreciate that somebody called this out, because this photo brings back good memories. Exactly. That might have not done that if it was a super clean black and white or a color. So I didn't intend that, but Ben, great job. You accomplished something, even
Hey,
if that wasn't your goal.
no, thank you. I apologize if you can hear my dog barking. I don't know
Hey, it's okay. We love the
who's
pups.
at the door. No,
Sweet boy.
thank you for that. This is one of those things where with my macro photography, so much of it is intentional. Um, but with this, I didn't really know what I was going to be shooting or what the end result was going to be. So I give a lot of credit to the camera system for kind of helping that, materialize while I was out there. Because yeah, like you said, like my intentions weren't, exactly that with the black and white. I just know there's a specific look that I prefer, and then I created that recipe and I went and gave it a whirl.
Exactly. You tried
But
something
often,
out and you were paid off for it. That's great.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. Well, guys, I think we're up on time. Thank you so much for your questions. If you have more, you can DM us on Instagram, OMSYSTEM.Americas or OMSYSTEM.Cameras. You can also leave more comments here on YouTube. Happy to meet you wherever you're at. If you want to find out about more shows like this, our team worldwide is always showing shows. Plenty of them are in English for those of you where that matters. There's plenty in other languages as well. Make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube page. Make sure that you're subscribed for our emails, or you can just kind of check out what we've got on the OM System events page. You can find out about online events like this, as well as in-person events, maybe at a local camera store or at a festival near you. Ben, any closing thoughts or words or pieces of advice for folks?
No, really. Well, I say no, then I go into a spiel. Yeah, I guess if I was going to share anything, it's really just, um, you know, photography can be whatever you want it to be. And for me, and what I've run into a lot lately with macro photography is the time and energy with post processing and getting those images to work. So being able to have kind of a change of pace, and have these straight out of camera images, I was never falling out of love with photography, but what it did
Mm,
was just really fortified, my relationship with photography. So
mm.
in the OM3 is really just been a great system, to kind of add to, my creativity, and it really is a powerhouse, and I couldn't be happier with it. So I wanted to say that, and I also just wanted to thank, you, Ben, for doing this, and for,
Thank you.
your team for allowing me to go out and take images, and trusted that it wouldn't be a bunch of soup sandwiches. So I had a lot of fun, and I look forward to, my next trip to, or experience, or family event, or whatever, I'm going to bring my OM3 out for.
Yeah, we'll see what challenge I give you next time.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Until next time, keep shooting. Take friends out with you. Be a great example. Keep inspiring yourself. Keep looking for inspiration with folks like Ben Salb. And when you're done, print those images, folks. All right. Until next time, I'm gonna roll that outro. We're gonna do that nice and smoothly this time. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye.